Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Startup Change Leaders weekly program. We always meet at 11:30 a.m. Every Sunday, and today the topic is cost total cost management. And this is a series we are carrying. Atul held one session on this already, and today we'll continue with that series. And over to you, Atul.
Yeah,
Atul, as we all know, is a chartered accountant by profession and a very active member, and in fact, one of the founders of this startup change leaders. Yeah.
yeah. Just to recapture what we discussed in the previous session, which was session one, that the topic is total cost management. So we discussed what is the concept of total cost management and how the corporates they make use of the total cost management as a tool to improve on the efficiencies and to implement some of the strategies which come from the total cost management concept. So we did discuss that it's nothing but basically controlling the cost or optimizing the cost, but then it takes lot of efforts to bring in the change in the organization. So on the cost side, so this tool essentially is involving or engaging basically the whole functions of the organization. It's not only the finance and accounts or the costing department per se which is involved, but then it involves the all the R&D functions, the production functions, the HR functions, or for that matter, the NPD department, the finance and accounts department, the marketing department. So whole lot of exercise need to be done, and this TCM journey which has to go through different modules. We did discuss about that. There are different modules. So in fact, there are 9 modules, and we briefly touched upon a couple of modules which basically were the starting points. So first module we discussed in the last session was that formulation of the business strategy and integration of the TCM into the whole business strategy. As we know that no organization worth its name can succeed unless until there is a clear strategy at the top, and this is fully then owned by the what do you call the management committee, and in turn by the board of directors. But then the total cost management is the concept which need to be aligned into the business strategy itself, so that everybody knows that this is not a one-off kind of a drive. It is basically integral part of the business strategy. And then we moved on to the couple of other modules. We did discuss that the total cost management, which in any case, these are the slides which I picked up from the CI, I mean, uh, uh, some kind of programs which we ran in some of the corporates about 10 years back. So they talked about 5 levels of the total cost management maturity models. So starting with the first level, which is essentially the measurement, and then moving into the other levels, and going all the way up to the level 5, which is basically by that time we can say that we are having these practices on a world class level, which is resilient, and which is the one which is then capable of giving the benefits which is being sought after. So we did discuss about these 9 modules, and then the persons who are responsible for driving all these modules in the organization. So formulation of business strategy and integration is the one which in any case has to be then owned by the top person in the organization. So CEO is the one. And then next one is the aligning the risk management. And accordingly, all these 9 modules, they have been related to one person or the other, or the CFT functions, which is cross-functional teams, which is defined at the time when the program is initiated, so that this is then implemented in the right spirits. So, and we also discussed that generally whole of this exercise of the TCM that is completed over 4 to 5 year journey. So it's not a, I mean, one of a 6 months or a 1 year journey. And then some of the general point we discussed was that there is a some kind of questionnaire which is thrown open to the experts in the organization, or the experts in any case draft these questions and they throw open to the various employees in the organization. Yeah.
Please kindly mute yourself, all of you. Yes, Atul, please.
Yeah. So these are some of the general points, which in any case we did discuss that how it starts. And then we discussed about the module 1, which is formulation of business strategy and integration of the TCM. So in module 1, what we discussed was that the need for attaining the cost competitiveness is the one which has to be fully understood by the CEO. And in today's world, the need for having the cost competitiveness is all the more relevant when we are seeing that there is a tectonic shift in terms of the trade balances, the way the businesses are being done, and the way cost of the cost factors per se, or the cost of doing business, that has increased so much because of the increase in the inflations or the cost of energies and some of those things, or the geopolitical shifts. So optimized cost of structure need to be put in place through the laying down of the milestones, and then strategic intervention is to be done, and that is to be driven by the from the functional side, and blueprint of the cost strategies need to be laid down so that we then achieve the optimal cost structure through the whole value chain. Now the first module, the CEO in any case should be very clear in their mind that the devil lies in the details. So the details and the analysis of cost structure has to be rich enough so that the company is able to achieve that cost leadership. For example, I would give you just one small example. A long time back, in one of these gatherings in the leadership programs, in the Unilever leadership person, he was speaking on an occasion. He was saying that the Unilever product basket of the detergents is the one which in any case has all along been having a leadership position in the marketplace. But the cost leadership there, that came to Unilever not, I mean, putting up their product vis-a-vis the competitors' product, which is basically multinational companies. So their cost leadership came because they defined that what is the cost which need to be there for this product in a particular region. And the particular region, for example, in Uttar Pradesh, if in case they want to have the leadership, then their cost has to be lower than the cost at which Ghadi detergent from, I mean, this eastern UP that is made out. This Ghadi detergent has been making their product and have been penetrating this rural market in a big way. So this guy from Unilever, he said that they are so, I mean, deep into the various kind of marketing strategy that they know that on the regional basis, this would be the cost at which they would be doing the business. So those things are very well clearly defined in their strategy at the top level, and therefore they are successful on a pan-India basis. So benchmarking, that is the other one which we discussed, that the cost, various elements of cost, they not only have to be busted at the level at which you are earlier operating. I mean, one is your own internal benchmarks, which you set on year-to-year basis. So every year when the budget for the next financial year is prepared, at that time you look upon that what has been the best cost achieved for a particular cost element in the last 1, 2, or 3 years. And then in the last year, which month you achieve the best cost structure. So that becomes your internal benchmark. But it is not necessary that that is your benchmark for the outside world. So when you are in the marketplace, it's the market which will determine the price. Therefore, the benchmark is to be understood in the context of that who is the outside supplier who is able to make that product at a cost which is the lowest cost in the marketplace. And then the CEO need to understand that deployment of cost strategies has to be then not only made, but then is to be deployed as a cascading exercise. So nothing is, done till the time it is deployed on the shop floors and it is cascaded to the last man on the shop floor, or the worker, or for that matter, the people who really work on the micro level. So the CEO need to understand and clearly uh, make this as a underlying point in terms of implementation. And the third thing is that the deployment framework or cost strategy has to be flagged out, and then the inputs which is coming from the various shop floor guys or the various functional guys has to be then taken into the decision making matrix, so that you are able to realize those into your strategy. And then all these things we discussed. So model 1 and HR. Does the HR process of the company enable the build-up of TCM culture, cost competency organization by developing and managing competency through the organization? So competency is another one. I mean, a lot of corporates, they engage the big four or the well-known consultancy firms in order to map the competency skills, whether the workforce or the staff which you engage, are they productive enough, and do they have the competencies to perform the kind of jobs which is given to them in the organization. So this module 1 basically looks for overall business strategy, key strategic pillars, then the strategic map, and then matrices which is laid out from there. There is a balance scorecard or the dashboards which is enabled to the ERP systems, and the key business drivers and the competitor analysis. All these dashboards and points, they need to be in place. And then they, in this exercise, they give the point, the TCM assessors, as we say. So we then give the points to each of these sub points. Detailing of the analysis, whether it is done, detailing the cost structure and the analysis is done in line with what the market demands. So there are 20 marks, 10 marks, and the weightage is given, and accordingly total marks is adds up to 110. So now we talk about module 2. So module 2 is nothing but risk. In today's world, the role of the CFO is more of a CRO. It is not a CFO. CFO role can be outsourced, but the CRO role is the one which is more important. And CRO stands for the Chief Risk Officer, the Chief Business Risk Officer. The risk framework is the one which is very, very important. And for the last so many years, we have seen the multinational companies, they have very well laid out the enterprise risk management policies in place. So the CRO, the Chief Risk Officer, or the CFO, they are the one who are interested with this task of making the whole strategy on the side. So leading organizations, they use all these risk management framework, plans, policies, and then study deep into those things, what is required for the organization. So first question in this exercise, which the assessors or the guys who undertake this cost management exercise, they ask is, does the company track technology trends, forecast, and impact on the current and future pricing of the products? So I will give you one example. I mean, we all know that Kodak, in its own time, they were the world leaders in terms of their cameras and all that. But all of a sudden, when the changes came, the digital world started, and the digital photos and all those things started doing. So they all of a sudden went out of the technology, which was so relevant, and then they gradually phased out from the marketplace. There are so many examples of such kind. The technologies is something which is, is a big risk factor. I mean, we keep on, hearing so many examples of that. So that is what which need to be clearly understood. On the refrigeration side, for example, there are direct cooling technologies and there are frost-free technologies. And then on the automotive side, we all know that there are IC engines related the vehicles. And now everybody is talking about going into the EV mobility and the electric vehicles and all that. And last week we had this Nitin Gadkari in one of the conferences which I attended. He was saying that, I mean, it is inevitable. Either you perform or perish. So you have to take all these strategies into your stride and make changes in your strategies over the next 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 years in a structured way, so that you are able to realize the benefits of those technology, because the market would demand that technology and their product. And if you're not aligned with that, then you'll be just out of the business. The second thing which the CRO, the CFO need to answer is that, does the company have a forecast view on how each of the element of input cost move over the next few years? I just discussed that in today's time, we know that there are certain costs which are no longer fixed. They are, even the fixed costs have been made variable. For example, there is a what you call the shop floors, or there are these offices which are basically shared spaces and all that. So the rentals, they may not be fixed. They can always move down in line with whatever. I mean, during COVID era, we saw that a lot of these rental agreements, they were renegotiated and the cost were brought down. Similarly, there are functions which can be outsourced. So the technologies and the use of those technologies, they have enabled the outsourcing of the works which otherwise were being done by the organizations in-house. Yeah, we all know that in the IT world, we have seen many. We are seeing many companies. They are outsourcing in USA and Europe. They are outsourcing their work from India. So this is basically what is important, that how do you define your input cost. The third thing which the CFO or the CRO need to understand is that, does the company assess whether the input costs are affected by the volatility of commodity prices? Now, this is another important thing that worldwide we have seen that how the pricing of the various asset classes, they have moved. We know that the world has seen the kind of what you call money printing, which has been unheard of. Yeah, right from the year 2008. Today we are in 2012, 22. So almost 14 years. So we have seen that from the Lehman Brothers crisis of 2008 till this COVID era, when the COVID pandemic hit the world, the US country itself, they had printed something like $9 trillion of money, and they infused that into the system. And now for the last 6-8 months, we have started seeing that Fed is now talking about deleveraging and started withdrawing that liquidity from the worldwide marketplace. And as a result of that, we have seen that how the meltdown has started taking place in the prices, be it the cryptocurrencies, be it the commodities, be it the equity markets, or be it the some of the emerging market traded platforms, be it the ETFs or all those kind of things. So it's basically everything is linked to the money which is there in the supply. So if the money is going to be more, then the prices of the commodities would keep on rising. But if the money is to be withdrawn, then the prices of all these things, they would get repriced. So as a CRO for the organization, when you are making a strategy in line with your business management team, so the CRO has to play a very active role, that how the world is going to look like on 1+3 years basis or 1+4 year basis. What is going to be the cycle of the various input cost, and for the raw materials, the commodity pricing is the one which is going to make part of your bill of material. Therefore, you have to assess as a TCM expert when you are going to the company, that whether you have got the company has got those systems to map the volatility of these prices, which is so very important to the success of the organization. And all these things are relevant for the startup world. I mean, be it the startup at the early stage or the next stage and all that. So these are all things which are relevant. And then is there a framework in place to address the high fluctuation in the prices of the commodities? And then next is that, has this been operationalized? Yeah. So it's not that the company should have these measurement systems in place, but they should be put in operation. Yeah. So the operationalization on the volatility side of the commodity pricing can be through the hedging strategies. For example, you can go and do some kind of a hedging at the market platform, be it the MCX or the Shanghai Stock Exchange or the London Stock Exchange and all that. So we keep on advising the corporate that how they can hedge their prices through a simple strategies. There is no speculation on that. I mean, we have seen in March, like it has not been more than 6 months that the prices have already slashed down on the commodities, some of these commodities by almost 40%. For example, in March 2022, the price of the LME, aluminum LME price was $3,500 per metric ton. And today, I mean, therefore, yesterday, it closed at less than 2,100. So you can well imagine that what kind of havoc it can play in the strategy of the organization if the organization is not well prepared to assess the impact of such kind of volatilities, and the customer is not going to pay for that unless until there are formulas which are fixed and there is a complete transparent pass-through mechanism which is put in place, be it on the increase side or on the decrease side. Does the company have the process of indemnifying and prioritizing and mitigating and monitoring mission critical risks that can impact the company's ability to realize its performance objectives? Now, this is another important thing, that the company should have the standard operating procedures, which should enable the organization to identify and then prioritize. There can be 10 things which the organization may need to do, but then prioritizing that and mitigating those risks. The currency is the one. For example, we have seen the way Indian currency has played out in the last 6-8 months, from 76 at the March, and now we already crossed 81. And so much so that we have seen that the currencies of the other markets, they have depreciated more, or almost double than the depreciation which we have seen in case of rupee. And in Euroland, we all know that the euro, which used to be 1.4 is to $1, now it has come below 1:1. So all of a sudden, there is a deep concern on the economies in Euroland and all that, and the prices of energies there, they have gone down, they've gone up so significantly. So therefore, if somebody is to manufacture a product in India, the Indian currency has to then, and if somebody is to manufacture a product and export it out of India, then the price at which our product would be sold in the international market in dollars, that would be dependent on the price at which that product can be made available either from China or Vietnam, or for that matter, Euroland. So the currencies and all these things, they can play a havoc with your strategies. Therefore, as a CRO or the chief the finance officer, you need to have those policies and the processes in place, and not only to identify but prioritize and mitigate. Again, there are hedging strategies. There is a natural hedge which could be available. There is a some kind of the derivative structures which are put in place. So those are the terminology I'm using just to tell you that the organizations do make use of those things in order to optimize on the risks or mitigate the risk. And the next is are the company's high risk area driven by the changes in the input cost. Yeah. So risk is something which you need not to keep with yourself into the startup or into the organization. It is something which has to be passed through. If the commodity prices are the one which is rising, then it has to be then built up into the price realization which we have with the customers. Yeah. So there is a quarterly lag of the price which is defined in the contracts which is written with the customers, that if the price of the commodity is going to rise, your bill of material cost would rise. Therefore, the customer would have to pay the higher price for the finished product. And conversely, if the price is to go down, then the customer has all the right, and you, in any case, would be obligated to pass on the benefit of the decrease in the commodity prices and all that kind of stuff. And this is the one which talks about the risk owners. So key cost elements is the one which is to be linked to the various functional heads in the organization, and it has to be fully documented, and then it has to be escalated through some kind of a reporting system to the management of the board of directors. Next question to the CRO is that, does the TCM provide a continuous feedback on the current and future cost to facilitate proactive action to mitigate adverse? So here comes the basically the realization that whatever practices you have been using or you use through use of these tools, ultimately the proof of the pudding, as they say, lies in eating. Therefore, at the end of the year or at the end of the period by which this program is implemented, you have to make sure that there is a continuous feedback available on the practices which you have used through these tools. For example, if the company is manufacturing, say, 10 products, yeah, in a particular plant, and there's a product wise and the customer wise profitability systems which is laid in the organization, and the TCM intervention and all that, if you have implemented all those tools, and then thereafter you make your customer wise and product wise profitability charts, and some of these products or some of the customers may turn out to be such which may not be so significant or so high in value or in percentage of your total business, but still you may like to continue with them because in future they may like to contribute a larger turnover of your business. So you can make decisions based upon those charts which could be available to you. So through this, basically, the TCM assessors, they get a glimpse on the overall enterprise management system or the processes which is deployed in the company, risk profiling, whether it is done in the organization, linking the risk framework to TCM process of the organization, and key raw material, that is the one, because raw material generally constitutes a good about 70 to 75% of your business. And then these are the scoring points which is given to each of the sub questions. Now we move to module 3. So module 3 is mapping of the strategic product and customer. So this is what I was talking about, the product and the customer segmentation, product customer profitability. So this is the one which has to be made in the organizations, whether business decisions related to pricing, the profit planning, investment decisions, marketing decisions, optimizing the product portfolio and customer, they are all linked to the underlying data. If the data is not there, if the measurement of the data is not taking place, then there is no way that you would be able to put these modules into operation. And you can then respond to the competitors only after you have your internal assessment of your internal these analysis. So first is the measurement of data. That is what we say. Level 1 in the whole journey of this TCM is that the measurement. So if the thing is that the starting point is that you should know, okay, all these things are the good practices which need to be there. And then we have to start the journey in the right earnest by defining that, okay, the first starting point is the measurement. So how do you measure this? So there has to be a, if there is a SAP or the HANA modules and all that, there should be what you call the CO modules, which should be built up into your ERP framework, into the SAP HANA platform and all that. Then only you would be able to generate all this data. So therefore, the role of the CXO, the Chief Technology Officer in the organization, who is driving the IT initiative, that is important. So in module 3 on the product and customer profitability analysis, what is seen by the assessors is whether the flowing from the business strategy, which is written by the CEO, where the company has prepared hierarchical structure of the products and services. I mean, it is all linked to the overall business strategy. The cascading of that then is to be seen in this module. Again, linking with the business strategy, whether the company has prepared the not only structure of your internal all those kind of cost and all that, but structure in order to map the market and the customer expectations. If the channel management is part of the company's distribution strategy, whether the company has system measuring the channel management cost. So if you are into a business which is only a B2B business, then there has to be a certain kind of measurement. But if it is a business which is B2C, or it's basically you are selling the product to the customer through the distribution channels and all that, you need to have that system in place, whether the company has got the measurement systems of understanding how the channel inventory is moving in the marketplace. I would give you one example. About a couple of months back, I advised an organization that okay, the business is now looking up post-COVID. Therefore, I looked at their customer profiles and came to know that there are 10, 12 customers, out of which all the customers, they were doing okay, except for one customer which was giving them a large order. But then 2 months down the line, we realized that that customer just stopped making the payment against the supplies which the organization made. And the fault, ultimately we came to know that that was because the customer started picking up the goods from the suppliers and the manufacturers in order to feed basically the inventories into the system, channel management or the distributors and all that. And that inventory which was sitting with the distributors, that was not getting sold just in time so that he could pay on time. So obviously, if as a part of your risk strategy, measurement strategy, customer analysis and all that, if you are mapping the movement of the channel inventory which is there in the system, then these kind of risks are the one which you can avoid. Then is efficient after sales services part of the overall business strategy, whether the business system measuring after sales services? This is very important for all the OEMs. We know that there is a direct sale and there is a aftermarket sale. Similarly, for the products, there is a post-sale services, which is important parameter of the success of the business of the operation. And the cost of poor quality. So whether after-sale services, including the cost of poor quality, how frequently is the goods which you are selling is coming back to you as a poor quality, and what are the responsive measures which you have introduced in the organization in order to prevent such kind of a poor quality going out in the marketplace, and what is going to be the effect in relation to such events. So all these things are written over there. Has the product and the customer segment performance reporting adopted in the TCM? So this is again a very detailed exercise. So the owner of this module has to be none other than the chief of the marketing of the organization, so CMO. So ownership of all these modules is very well laid out in this assessment. So this, the TCM assessor and we as a people who advise the organization, we expect to find answers to these 4 or 5 points in this module, that what is the product, customer and market profiling, to whom the organization is catering to, what is their cost and the profitability reporting matrices in the system, how do they analyze all these data points and link it to the decision making, and then ultimately it has to then boil down to repricing the product in the marketplace or addressing the market challenges. So in terms of marketing challenges, for example, one example could be that the inflation has been there for all. So the OEMs to whom you supply, you may say that your commodity prices have increased by XYZ. The OEMs may or may not buy the price at the price points at which your bill of material is moving. Therefore, they would say that, okay, we cannot take a 100% increase of the commodity prices, because they may come back and say that the ultimate customer to whom we are selling, they are not ready to buy our product at these price points. So you have to then make the strategies in the organization, whether you are able to reprice the product. So for example, pricing could be linked to the volumes which they are picking up from you as an organization. And then there are these scoring points, which is mentioned in this module. Next important point is the NPD. Yeah. I hope I'm clear. Is it getting something bored or is it relevant?
Atul, we can ask for some questions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's hear out if there is any question from anybody.
So far, if anybody has any question, please.
Yeah. Sir, you were just telling about the HUL example, like in East UP, it was different, and other place it was different. Can you please elaborate?
Yeah. So ultimately, what you have to see is that whether the share of business of the product in each of the regions that is moving in tandem with your strategy or not. And if it is not, then it may be just because of, it may not just be because of your pan India pricing, it may be because of so many other reasons which could be hidden. So the competition is the one which is very important. So you have to see that who is your competitor, and the competitors, sometimes we say that competitor is a national competitor or a regional, the competitor in Asia and all that. But we forget that who could be your competitor next door or the next state or the next districts and all that. So long time back, all these guys, they've been there in the business and they were all unorganized players, and they would not pay, they would not, comply with certain rules and regulations, the cost of compliance and all that, they might not be paying. Therefore, they could always be selling the product in the marketplace at the prices which could be more attractive to certain population in that state and all that. So you as an organization need to understand that who is going to be such kind of competitor and make your strategies in line with that. Of course, these can be only short-term strategy, because the long-term you would like to comply with everything and then only you would sell that product at the price point. But what I'm trying to say is that short-term you can always sacrifice your margins with a view that once you would be able to succeed in maintaining your market shares 1 year, 2 years, 3 years out, you would be able to then retain your market share.
Yeah, thank you. And to summarize, the strategy is owned by CEO. The next one is you talked about risk.
Yes.
And the third one was
the marketing. Yeah, it's basically assessment of the market. Who are your customers? Whom you are catering to? What is the price points at which you are catering to the customers? And what is the feedback mechanism from the customers which is coming to the organization? And what is the response which you are giving to the customers?
Yeah, thank you.
So all these things are basic things, but they have all been put into these structured way of modules, and this is just a starting point. Yeah. So once this level 1 of the TCM is to be undertaking the organization itself need to see that whether they've got answers to all these questions or not. Then only they should go for undertaking this exercise. Of course, this is an exercise which cannot be taken by an entrepreneur or a startup which has just started its journey. But then 1 year out, 2 years out, once you would be post your seed funding and all that, the venture capitalist or the investors, they do ask for all these questions. They would have different formats to ask these questions, but I have framed all these questions because I have advised these things to some of these manufacturing organizations, and they have been really effective. And one of the key important thing of this thing is that this engages the whole organization and whole functions of the organization. It is not limited to only one functional head. It's not that the CEO understands the concept of the TCM and there are board meeting, there are management committee meeting. They say that, okay, goody, all these things, they would happen, but nothing moves. The things can move only and only if you are able to engage the whole workforce in the organization with the practices which you are going to use.
So Atul, as you rightly said, the implementation of this is very, very important aspect. Yeah. But out of your experience, I would like to ask, what are the pain points, or what are the irritants, and what are the various challenges which you faced when we were trying to implement this in the organization.
Yeah, interesting one. Rajiv said, as they say that everybody would like to work in the way in which they have been working. So change is the only thing which is taken for granted. But then in practice, everybody is more static. They resist the change and all that.
Yeah.
So I will give you one example. We about 5 years back. No, I mean, I would give you another example. We visited a significant large market player in Western India. That was 7-8 years back. And they said that they are making their product and their cost of making the product is the best one in the industry. Now, when I mean, there were certain investors who were associated with the exercise, the due diligence was going on. We realized that this was just more of the paper which was being written at the top level. And when we went into the shop floor, we just asked a couple of questions that where are the visuals, where are the displays, where are those the best practices which you are talking about, they are being deployed onto the shop floors. And the truth came out that all these things, they are not yet there on the shop floors and all that. So there was a de-link between what they were saying and what they were preaching, and what they were practicing.
Right.
One of the key challenges which we faced subsequent to that, I mean, even if we awakened the organization that, okay, this is what you need to do, so you have to plug in these links, de-links, and have to make a whole of the thing workable in a synergetical manner. But subsequently, what challenge we faced was that even if the management said, okay, we would do it, but then the marketplace, we came out to know that that was so dynamic that they said that there is a competition which is throwing that product from outside India marketplace. For example, China, that at that time in that product segment, China was also very active. So they were throwing that product into the marketplace at the price points which was so low that
Right.
so we in that case subsequently said to that business owners that you have to have China plus one strategy into your marketplace. So go
Absolutely.
for the backward integrations, go for making build up the capacities which could be your own captive consumption, because in the process you not only would be de-risking the supply chain which is coming from China, but also you would be de-risking the what you call just-in-time kind of a deliveries, which otherwise it has to be 60 or 80 days because it has to come from China and all that. So
Right.
of course it took some time to make the management understand those things, and they subsequently implemented, and therefore they became self-sufficient.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So I would another 5-7 minutes I would cover this one more
Sure.
module, and for
Sure.
rest of the modules we can cover in subsequent discussion.
Sure.
So module 4 is talks about the NPD. This is new product design. Yeah. So in many organizations, in case of automotives, for example, it is more prevalent kind of a usage of this new NPD is more relevant in the automotive sector. When you are designing a product, yeah, or when you are designing a particular component which is to be used in that automobile, the OEMs would give an order to the automobile component manufacturer, or in case of engineering organization, the end user, the OEMs would give the order to that engineering company, and they would say that, boss, this is the specification, this is the design, and based upon this design, you make the product, you make the prototype, and get all those dies or the molds and all those things prepared in line with that, and then start supplying to us. So it's a 1-year kind of a manufacturing pre-prep program, pre-production program, which takes place right from the point when the design is made by the OEM till the time the product is approved. I mean, that prototype or the sample product that is approved by the OEM. The commercialization then takes place post this period of 12 months. Now, at that time, the role of the NPT guy, the guy who is heading the R&D department of the organization, or for that matter, if it is not a R&D department, because they in any case are going to produce a product which is essentially made producing which is basically making the product as per the design made available to you by the OEM. So the role of the NPD guy is very important, because once the design is frozen, then the cost of manufacturing that product on the shop floor is something which would be then frozen. So you cannot undo a design which otherwise has been already done after a lot of iterations between the OEM and the team of the OEM with the team of the component manufacturer. So this basically module captures the thought process of the NPD new product design team of the organization, the new paradigm of the cost elimination through design. So there can be certain functions in the product which could be, I mean, in case of let us say a particular engine part, there is a, let us say, a metal, aluminum, or let us say a different kind of a polymer which is used in order to make a particular part for the automobile. There can be certain subparts of that finished part that may be functionally more important. So therefore, the use of the material in order to strengthen the component on that side is something which is there. But then there can be, other than the what you call non-functional areas of that part in the design, which can be eliminated. So this first line basically talks about that understanding of the basically new paradigm of the cost elimination through the design. It can have a far-reaching implications. In case of die casting, for example, when you have the molten material which is fed into the furnaces, and those furnaces, then the molten material is then poured into the machines, which is the die casting machines. There are a lot of materials which is essentially gets accumulated onto the corners, different corners of that that product, which is basically the first level of the process. So that kind of wastage and all that is the one which then has to be what you call eliminated. And if you can optimize the whole design of the product in such a way that wastages can be eliminated, then the cost in any case then can be optimized. The management of the product cost design begins with the conception of the product. So here the role of the technical guy or the new product design guy is very, very important. So the questions which we ask from the guys on the NPD side is there the introduction of the new products at a targeted price? Because ultimately in the business strategy, it is written very clearly that the customer would pay you only that much of the price which the competition is allowed. So therefore, if the new design has come, it is very important to understand and to make the other NPT guy understand, because this is the product which the market demands, the OEM demands. It has to come at a targeted price. So you do whatever you want to do, but ultimately I want to have this product to be sold at, let us say, $5 or $7 or $10, not more than that. So accordingly, that guy in the NPT department would start thinking about that. Okay, this is the design and this is the basis on which he would be able to design it better so that the cost comes out within the targeted costing. So does the organization map the target price into the value proposition of the product based on the customer needs? What techniques are deployed? All these things are there. Whether the target cost is mapped into the value proposition. So what is the value which you are giving to the customer? This is what is important for the NPD guy to understand. Whether the target cost, the current cost are mapped and stuff like that. So all these questions are there. And what are your current costs historically, which is linked to the TCM framework? So this is the NPD. NPD is nothing but basically a chief technology officer of the organization on the product design side. So the answers which we seek essentially relates to these questions, that whether the company has got the structured processes of new process and product development, whether embedding of the cost economics in the NPD stage that is there, and what are the, I mean, we of course give them certain case studies. For example, I just gave you die casting products, so therefore there can be different case studies which is basically exhibited to the NPD guys to make him understand what we're talking about, and what is the cost correction which then can be undertaken in the organization in future through the life cycle of the product, because the program of the product is going to go for 1, 2, or maximum 3 years. And we all know that these products can last in the market only for a limited period. Gone are those days when the particular model of the product can be there in the market for 10 years together. So all these kind of questions, and then scorecard in relation to this thing is the one which is described in this module. So I have covered these 4 modules, and we would cover rest of these. There are 3, 4 more modules in our subsequent discussions.
Thank you, Atul. I think it's very insightful. One more thing which just came to my mind when you were describing to check the implementation, we found out that in the manufacturing company, the shop floor people are not understanding English sometimes. So if it is not displayed in bilingual language, that means it is all being shown that it is being implemented, but actually it has not percolated down to the.
Absolutely right. So vernacular language has to be there if it is a plant which is there in South. Therefore,
absolutely,
the message has to be given loud and clear, and in the language in which it is desirable. There has to be the not only the displays, the standees, and those kind of the visual effects, they should be there, but then there should be regular sessions onto the shop floors.
Absolutely.
To make the people understand that this is what they're talking about.
Absolutely. Very important. So any questions, please?
Generally,
Mr. Atul, I think it was a wonderful presentation, and I was listening to your presentation very carefully, and I was delighted to have your TCM maturity model.
Yeah.
But in the interest of the participants, I would like to understand, using artificial intelligence, can we predict the profit forecasting, especially for the small business owners? This is the one. And the other one is, what is your advice, especially to the line managers, to optimize the cost?
So I will answer the second question first. So as I say, the necessity becomes the mother of invention. So the line managers, in any case, have to be made to understand the need of optimizing cost through a cascading effect. Yeah. So it's basically cascading right from the CEO level to the last man on the shop floor. That is one which is required. So the line manager has to fall in line with the best practices which is being used worldwide onto that particular process which he is doing. So therefore, it's easier said than done. You have to go and drill down into their mind through various training sessions, and over a period of time. It is not a 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, 6 months kind of a every month session. It is a continuous session. Therefore, this has to be imbibed and embedded onto the shop floor of the organization. So that is one. And second thing, as you rightly said, is that we all have been talking about India becoming basically a manufacturing hub. It's a China plus one strategy which is being played out in the marketplace. Therefore, in India, we have been talking about for the last 5-7 years the what you call Industry 5.0, or the artificial intelligence, or the robotics and all that. But I tell you, my experience is that there are many companies which have implemented it, and they have made use of those things. Yeah. I mean, we all know the Honeywell automations. So Honeywell automations, their basically whole business model or large part of their business model in India is in relation to the automations, which is essentially the artificial intelligence and the use of those tools onto the shop floors. And last 5 years back, there was someone who set up a business house in Uttar Pradesh, only in Noida, and today their market value is about 3,000 crores, and they are doing only these kind of products in the marketplace, which is AI or the robotics or the automations or the use of those technologies, which is so much relevant in this world. Yeah, so things are moving. I think the AI is something which world has even moved ahead and using all the blockchain technologies and those things. So in the manufacturing space, AI, as you rightly said, is the one which need to be understood in detail. So we can have a session in a separate session, whole session on the AI side in due course of time.
Just one more dimension to what you have all discussed about. You mentioned that the implementation of ERP for all the organizations is kind of must.
Yes.
So considering the cost implication of having a ERP in place, there's what is your recommendation? You talked about HANA also, and what is your recommendation as to we should purchase the cloud-based system or?
Yeah, today's time is going for the cloud-based applications. So having all this kind of hardware in-house and servers and all that is definitely a huge cost. But then these ERPs and these things, they are viable for us only after a company becomes of a particular size. Till such time, there are different ERPs which are there in the marketplace. So they then can be implemented to start with. And later on, they then can be upgraded so that it becomes the integration onto the HANA.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you. Ajish, you wanted to ask something.
Yeah. Usually when we do a new product, generally the cost will be higher, right? Generally, will it reduce?
You see, again, I tell you that if you write down the strategy for your journey in the enterprise, so that journey has to be a fairly long term. I mean, it cannot be only a 1 year journey or 2 year journey. It has to be at least 1 + 4 years. So that means if you're writing the journey for 5 years, so in the first phase, your cost of making that product could be higher. But then as you move into the second year, that cost has to be then get optimized by increasing the volumes, that is one, or could be that you have got more volumes growth rather than the value growth in the organization. So if your volumes are increasing, even if your cost is one which is constant or which is a tad bit going down, but I'm sure in the third year when you would be able to use your capacity to the optimum levels, so your cost automatically would come down because by that time you would have absorbed fully the fixed cost, which otherwise you have been uploading 100% in the first year. And second is that higher the volumes, the larger would be the profitability.
Right.
Thank you.
Anybody else with any questions? So thank you, Atul, for a very insightful session. Friends, we run this community, Startup Change Leaders. So after this session, I'll be sharing the recording also with you. Please share it on your social media handles so that we invite more and more people to join the community and we spread the positive message across for all the SME entrepreneurs and startups. Thanks a lot. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you, Mr. Verma, for and
Thank you.
We'll invite you on HR one of the in one of the sessions.
Yeah.
I think time permitting and convenience to everyone, I can take a session on performance management system in the revised avatar and why it is essential for the organizations in times to come and how it can be beneficial to everyone. So that can be of great interest to all of you. And if you can bring along your HR or finance people also along for the session, that will be very beneficial.
Sure. I'll plan it with you. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a great day. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.